Our next guest is sometimes referred to as the Santa Claus shooter in Detroit. After he was involved in a self-defense shooting right before Christmas, his real name, though, is Marcus Allen Weldon, and he joins us live today. What's going on, Marcus?
What's going on, Colion?
Doing pretty good. So, man, let's jump right into it. So talk us through what happened that day.
Well, it was a very crazy and emotional experience back in 2014. I was helping a coworker, both dressed in Christmas outfits, leaving work, and then we had an encounter with two men that one of them was harassing her, a bit intoxicated, and it escalated to from a physical confrontation to me intervening, and it ended up becoming a confrontation between me and the individual where he decided to get his firearm, and we actually had a shootout in the parking lot.
Wow. So it turned into a full-blown shootout. Yeah,
it turned into pretty much a full-blown shootout. There was evidence that actually that was led to the nine actual witnesses that had said that there was multiple gunfire, but by the time the police arrived, there was no gun to be found. The videotape ended up showing the other individual run into the dumpster, so that leads us to believe that that's possible where the other gun had went. We asked the police department, did they check the scene, and of course that was a no. So with the grainy video we had, it was very hard to tell what he grabbed out that car, and it was just choppy, and the evidence was all just really distorted.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start hyper focusing on some of the incident that happened. So at what point did you decide to make the decision? Well, first of all, how often do you carry, and were you always carrying in those situations?
Yeah, I always carry my firearm. I've been carrying for 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I lost a close friend in street in violence. It was a carjacking. He was actually killed and murdered, and took the police department 30 minutes to get to his body as he bled out his mouth and back. And at that point, I realized.
You there? I think we lost.
It was up to me to be proactive for my safety.
Okay, I think we're having some. Yeah, well, I think you cut out for a second. So go back. I think the last thing we heard you say was you were talking about how he was. It took the cops 30 minutes to get to his body.
Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, I had lost a close friend to street carjacking.
Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I lost a close friend. He was carjacked and murdered, and that's when I realized it was up to me to be proactive with my safety, because law enforcement, of course, can only be reactive.
Yeah. No, I think that's a big point that a lot of us here in the gun community always point out and like to point out, and I think it's unfortunate sometimes because it's like it takes incidents like these to get some people to realize the reality of our world. Other people just tend to come to it on their own, but unfortunately for you, I mean, I hate the fact that you had to lose a friend, in order for you to get to this point. But how long after that, in processing the death of your friend, did you make that decision to start carrying?
Right after. I mean, as soon as he passed, I went straight and got my license and got straight into the class.
You said immediately?
It was almost a week, immediately within a week.
Gotcha. And so that day, what? I want to get into your head for people who've never really experienced something like this before, and just can you talk me through what's going through your mind at that point, and then when did you hit that snap, not the snap decision, but the immediate point when you realize I'm going to have to escalate this higher than I've ever had to before because this person has forced me to get to this level?
Yeah, well, when I seen that, when he went to the vehicle and started reaching under the seat, that's when I knew that it was time to make a decision. I was trying to back up and get out of there. I didn't fire my firearm.
Okay, I think we lost you again.
He did a full turnaround, and I seen the black gun in his hand. That's my first shot.
So do you remember? So when you saw when you saw the gun, a lot of people talk about when they're in these situations, you kind of have this tunnel vision. Is that something that you experienced yourself, or were you able to kind of pull in all of the information going on around you, or was it just kind of like all you saw was the gun?
I blanked out. I mean, it was like a tunnel vision, Dev. I blanked out. I didn't really. It was kind of one of them things where, like, you're in a nightmare and it's like a tunnel, like you said, tunnel vision. My emotions and adrenaline pretty much bled out of my pores all at once, and I instantly became lightheaded and dehydrated.
Wow.
And really torn apart inside emotionally, and it was a traumatic experience, to say the least. But the thing I kept thinking about, honestly, was my daughter.
Yeah. So, at any point during this altercation, did you think you were hit? Did the guy get off any shots? Was it one of the deals? Did you ever think that you were actually hit?
No, when I was looking at my firearm as I was discharging it, and it was crazy because when I was looking at my firearm the whole time when I was shooting, 'cause I couldn't believe I was shooting. So I was looking at my gun the whole time, and then I heard return fire, and I'm looking like, is he shooting back? So I look up, and then I'm walking, and it just became like a point where I thought that the girl was hit because she was screaming, and I thought maybe I was in shock.
Gotcha.
And wasn't sure if I actually was hearing this right. I was like, is he shooting back? Is he not? I mean, it was just like I said, a dump of adrenaline that just came out.
Yeah. And
I didn't even know I didn't know if I hit him. I didn't even know I hit him or not.
Yeah. And so prior to this, had you really trained for an encounter like this? Was this something that you thought about in your mind leading up to this event? Like, I know of course you didn't know this was going to happen, but in terms of like you carrying concealed, were there courses that you took, that you trained to kind of prepare you for a situation like this?
I was not proactive like I should have been with my training, and which is why I felt it was very imperative to get the education from the gun community, because I was not involved like I should have been.
Yeah.
I was not proactive, and that's something that I definitely regret. But I was going to the range, I say about once every month and a half. Mm-hmm. But something that could have definitely been more proactive with.
Gotcha. So thinking back to that time, is there anything that you would have done differently leading up to, after the fact?
I think I may have.
Oh, okay. You want me to repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Repeat the question.
Okay. So so thinking back to that day, is there anything that you would have done differently before? Now that knowing what you know, is there anything you would have done differently before you got to that point?
Well, I definitely wouldn't have been at the gas station that late, even though it was a situation where I was trying to help somebody. That's one thing. Another thing, I definitely would have, the de-escalation tactics that you need to learn before using your firearm is something that's very essential as well.
Yeah.
Maybe there could have been some more verbiage I could have used, but by the man being intoxicated, I'm not sure, if it was I'm not sure where his head was. And, it was really hard for me to kind of like think in that moment. But if I had been training like I felt like I should have been, then maybe I'd have been able to think on a dime, drop of a dime like that.
Gotcha. Now, how's the relationship with the girl? Are you guys still in contact?
I haven't had a conversation with her in about a couple of weeks, but we kind of follow each other on social media. She sends me messages every once in a while and say how you doing. But the friendship is still there.
Gotcha. And so now I want to talk about the after effect, because I think that is probably one of the most important aspects of your story is the process that you went through in terms of dealing with the shooting, because I think a lot of people tend to underestimate that. So let's start talking about. We got about a minute before we go to our break, but let's kind of get into that a little bit, and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back. So immediately after the shooting happens, what do you do?
Well, immediately after the shooting happens, I get ushered away to jail. First of all, the police draw their firearms down on me, and I have to get on the ground. I get the handcuffs put on me. I'm still trying to process what's going on, and I get ushered away to jail and have to sit there for about close to 4 days to wait for them to post bond, for my family to post bond and get me out.
Gotcha. And then after you post bond, what happens next? Did anyone did they contact you? Did they give you any idea of what they were going to charge you with?
Well, I was pretty much given a court date, and you're talking about as far as the courts go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was given a court date, and I went through a preliminary exam. They ended up putting me on house arrest on a tethered device. That was the compromise, and there was no gun found. There was I didn't find the evidence of another gun until trial, so that was a year, a year and maybe 3 months later. Then I had the evidence that I could prove there was another gun.
Gotcha. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll keep talking.